My 38-year-old ex-wife and I were together for 20 years before we split up. When we met in our first year of college, we were together all the time and couldn't be separated. People who were high school or college sweethearts don't always end up together for life, but I was sure that the two of us could make it work. That same year, I asked her to marry me, and we got married right away. Following 16 years and having 3 children, I would say that our life was like something from a fairy tale. Sure, it wasn't perfect, but then again, no relationship is. My wife and I had been married for 20 years when I began to notice strange things happening with her. She was sneaky, touchy, mean, and just not interested in our marriage and family, which is how cheats usually act. We had been married for a long time, so there were times when things were bad. I tried to ignore it and wait for a while. There was a time when I even suggested therapy, but it was turned down right away. She said we didn't need treatment since everything was fine. After that, I went online to look for reasons she might be this way. A lot of what I read made me think she might be cheating. I wasn't ready to believe it, but it would explain everything that was going on. I broke into her phone one night after we went to bed. I took it from her desk. My wife slept a lot, so she didn't move at all. The second time I tried, I was able to figure out her password. Then I went straight to her text messages. I knew this guy from working with her for a long time, so we sent each other a lot of texts. But from what I knew, they had never been close. They wouldn't have so much in common if they were. I thought this was fishy, so I looked at the text messages they sent each other. That night, I found out that my wife had been having an affair with her older friend. I never thought I'd have to worry about someone who was overweight and losing their hair. They were almost 20 years older than me. Still, here I was. There was something about him that I couldn't explain that made my wife want to be with him. Cheating was one of those things that turned me off. This was the end of the marriage for me that night. I laid down on the couch. When my wife told me the next morning that I had been sleeping downstairs, I told her about the affair. She became as white as a sheet. She tried to say it wasn't true until I showed her the phone I had broken into. She was mad that I was invading her space, which was quite rude. I told her that it was worth it to get a little of my space. My wife seemed to want to fix things with me at first. She thought it wasn't worth it when it became clear I was going to get a divorce. Soon after I asked for a divorce, she moved out and began seeing the AP she was cheating on me with. We could agree on things like who would get what in the split and how the children would be cared for. We probably both just wanted it to end. For me, I wanted it over because I wanted to be free and not be tied down to her anymore. For her, she wanted it over so she could ride off into the sunset with her new AP. I didn't tell my ex anything. I didn't need to know after that. We only talked about the breakup or our kids when we did talk. There were parenting apps that let you talk to the other parent, which made things easy. Luckily, she didn't object to us using that as our main way to talk to each other. It was hard for our kids, as it would be for any kid. Because they were young, I could only tell them so much about why the marriage ended. I also tried very hard to make it kid-friendly. She was a good mom to our 3 kids, even though I didn't like her. This was possibly the only good thing about her. It wasn't long after a year that we were no longer married. I thought about my kids, my job, my friends, my family, my hobbies, and other things in my life. It kept me busy enough that I didn't have to think about why my wife blew up our marriage the way she did. The only thing that made sense was that she had been bad all along, but she hadn't shown it until then. I really didn't mind about that. My wife stayed with the cheating partner, and things looked good until they didn't. She came to me crying after it went off in her face. She called me that night and asked if I could have the kids again overnight, even though it was her turn. I didn't mind because I loved being with my kids and didn't have anything else to do, so I said yes. But I asked what was wrong because I could hear her crying. She told me that fate was mean and had caught up with her. Her cheating partner had been seeing someone 10 years younger than my ex. This was found out when she looked at his phone while he was in the shower. I have no idea why she told me that. Maybe she thought I would feel sorry for her or, in a crazy world, try to get back together with her. My ex was the joke because I had been seeing someone else for a while and loved them so much. At the end of the talk, she asked again for forgiveness. I told her no, she hadn't earned my forgiveness, even though she was feeling the same way I did when I found out she was cheating on me. I cut the call short because she was crying so hard. I offered to watch the kids for the weekend so she could calm down and think about what she should do about this guy. I don't think my kids should be around all that trouble anyway. What was most important was that I kept them as far away from that crap as I could. Being honest, hearing him do the same thing to another woman, but this time with a younger woman, did make me feel a little better. No matter how hard I tried, my ex-boyfriend could never understand how hurt I was. She knew why, and it wasn't fun when the shoe was on the other foot. I think they are still together, but I don't trust them anymore. I think that is the funniest thing I have ever heard. How could you trust someone whose relationship started with an affair? My ex got what she deserved. She is the mother of my children, so I don't want her to get hurt physically. But I do want her to get what she deserves for what she did. I'm going to cut her off before she can say anything if she tries to complain to me again. I don't care or want to know. Everyone will be better off if my ex gets that off her chest as soon as possible. Ope, as the saying goes. What goes around comes around, and your ex-wife has seen this happen. As some say, she messed around and learned. There were many things she could have done first if she was so unhappy with your relationship. She could have tried to make things work, but if that didn't work, she should have asked for a divorce. If you hadn't looked through her phone that night, I promise you that you wouldn't have known about the affair for months or even years. She had her cake and came back for more. This is clear from how quickly she gave up when you insisted on getting a divorce. Getting even with your ex is the best gift you can give her. When it got into her life, it tore everything apart until there was nothing left. Let's move on to our second story today. I met my wife at work in the field I wanted to work in, but it wasn't as exciting as I would have liked. As a depressed millennial who had grown up in this market, it wasn't too much of a surprise. I was just glad to find something that would pay me. I ran into her while getting coffee, and we started to talk. It may sound cheesy, but we got along great right away. We talked for a while in line, then swapped numbers and went on a date. There were a lot of events that happened quickly in their relationship. It all happened so quickly that I may not have seen any warning signs at first. We were getting married after about a year. I asked her out of the blue. I don't know why I rushed it. Maybe I was still in love. We did have a small wedding, though, and she moved from her apartment to my simple one-room apartment. I've never had a lot of cash. Neither my family nor my ex-wife's family was upper middle class. Thus, it wasn't like we didn't come from the same background. While we did want to make our lives safer, it was okay if it didn't happen right away. It did take time for things like this to happen. Schemes to get rich quick were just that, schemes that didn't work. Everything looked good during the first year of the war. We seemed to be on the same page. After a while, it looked like my wife wasn't happy with the life we were building. The place wasn't good enough all of a sudden. It looked like nothing I did was good enough. I wasn't making enough money. We couldn't do anything special or that cost money since we didn't have any money. She was upset that I wasn't making enough money, not she. Me. Even though she worked full-time, I should have been the one bringing in more money since I was the husband. I was deeply in love with this woman, even though it's a shame that I tried. I saved as much money as I could by working longer hours. I was constantly tired while this was going on. My wife would whine that I never spent time with her, even though I worked extra hours for her sake. It made me want to do it less and less as time went on. Because of this, I knew something had to change. I was going to talk to my wife about it and see if we could make things better. I'm sure she would understand my point of view if I talked to her, right? I thought this would happen at least. That's why I chose to get home early one day to talk to her. But when I got home and looked for my wife, I found her with another man in our bed. I turned around and went into the kitchen when she screamed. After hearing moving in our bedroom, I heard the front door slam. My wife came in and asked what I was doing. My answer was to question her about why she was in our bed with another man. I asked her how long it had been going on because she said it didn't mean anything. My wife told me it had been going on for 6 months. She had been lying to me for 6 months. She told me they met on a social media site when I asked how they got together. I really wasn't interested in what she had to say after that. It was like the wool was pulled over my eyes when I found out she was cheating on me. After seeing all the red flags I had missed at first, I knew there was only one more step we could take. There was only one option: get a divorce. As soon as she knew I wasn't going to change my mind and take her back, she changed her tune. She packed her things and left after I told her it was over. After that, we moved forward with the divorce. So she could go be with her AP. My wife wanted to make it public. Through time, I learned that the AP was quite rich. As soon as I knew that, everything began to fit together. My wife, who is now ex-wife, had always wanted a much better life than I could give her. She seemed to want one of those get-rich-quick plans right now. You already know they don't work if you know anything about them. It doesn't matter how much you want them to. That's right. She did reach her goal by dating a rich guy. That's it, I guess. It didn't mean it would work out, though. As soon as the split was final, my ex-spouse moved in with the guy and began dating him. I did everything I could to forget about her and think about getting my life back on track. Getting away from work so much was the first step. I could still work and have fun at the same time. Because of this, I had more time for my hobbies and other small things I used to enjoy about life. My ex-wife got in touch with me a few months after we got divorced. Since I stopped her main number, she called me from a friend's phone. When I answered, my ex-girlfriend started crying because her new boyfriend had broken up with her after 6 months. That was the end of her backup plan. It made me laugh that my ex-girlfriend always wanted more out of life but was never ready to put in the work to get it. This was the truth hitting her in the face. And I'm not gonna lie, I loved every second of it. I don't care if what I did was stupid. I worked like a dog to make my wife happy, and it backfired on me. It was clear that my ex was calling to make me feel bad or something like that. It was the only thing I could think of. I told her she was looking in the wrong place for it, no matter what the reason was. Though, I do wonder what I would have done if she had asked to stay with me or give us another shot. I really didn't know because she started yelling and then hung up on me as soon as I brushed her off. If being hung up on was meant to hurt, then she certainly gave me one of the best punishments ever since I already didn't want to talk to her anymore. I heard that my ex-wife went to the guy's house and begged him to take her back. At one point, she almost got jailed because of it. This guy was my ex's only chance to get rich quick, so she couldn't let go of him. It was her choice to waste time going after him, so she did. I no longer had to deal with her since I kicked her out. Let her be the trouble for her AP or whoever else she ends up going out with. I've moved on with my life. The future may not look clear, but I know for sure that my ex will not be a part of it. To the OP, I have never seen a more cruel case of irony than this one. Your ex-wife wants the American dream, but she doesn't want to work hard for it. This is really funny. I don't understand why she thought she would base her future on a man she slept with. From the moment you found out, you did a great job with it. You quickly told your wife it was over without letting your feelings get in the way. This is a good thing. It should also give hope to other people who are going through the same thing. Don't look back. Keep going forward. If you ever think about your relationship again, just remember that your ex was the only one who really hurt you.